Hey everyone, welcome to another Habs History Series video. And today we're going to look at the 1986 Road to the Cup for the Montreal Canadiens. We'll take a general look at the season, stuff that went on during the season, see my cat agrees with me. And then we'll go into the brackets, take a look at the series by series for the Habs, and yeah, we'll do that. And that's right here at Talking Habs, the home of Habs hockey. So just give me a minute. Well, for you guys, it'll be like a split second. I'll be right back with the board. Hey, we're back. Okay, so this is a basic recap of the stuff that went on during the season. So it was the 85-86 season. The President's Trophy winners were the Edmonton Oilers. The league MVP was Wayne Gretzky, as well as the league leading scorer, of course, was Wayne Gretzky. He had 52 goals, 163 assists for a whopping, and I don't think ever matched since, 215 points. He hit his peak at 215 points. Number one draft pick that year was Wendell Clark by Toronto. The playoff MVP was our own Patrick Roy. That means he was the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. Stanley Cup champs were the Montreal Canadiens. Woohoo! The 23rd Cup for them. Flyers goalie Pelle Lindbergh was killed in a car crash on November 11th. So it was kind of set a bad tone to the start of the season. Now, it didn't affect the Flyers. They probably rallied to play in his memory because they were the second leading team in the league by the end of the season with 110 points. Washington Capitals, the other team in the East, that were the big team in the East, 107 points. The Edmonton Oilers on the West, on the I don't remember the name of the conference. They led the league with 119 points, so these were the winningest teams. This was the last time all the Canadian teams qualified for the playoffs. Hartford won their first and only series in the first round as the Whalers. They would then go on to become the Carolina Hurricanes. Two rookie goalies faced each other in the finals, Patrick Roy and Mike Vernon. Leading goalie of the for stats wise for the league was Bob Froese, I believe, and he had the only goalie under only one goalie in the top 10 with a goals against average under 3, and that was Froese. He had a 2.55 goals against. The number 10, so from number 1 to number 10 had a 3.55 goals against. Just think about that. The number 10 goalie in the league, stats wise, had a 3.55 goals against average. That backup goalies today might have that. A bad backup maybe would have that. Not a great backup. Anyway, that's how it was then. Last time all 4 former WHA teams made the playoffs in their original cities. So that's Quebec, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and another team that just Hartford. And it's the last time that all 4 teams, because 3 of them ended up moving, only Edmonton is still in its original city. Doug Gilmour and Bernie Federko led the playoff scoring with 21 points. And the amazing thing here, Wayne Gretzky was right behind them at 19 points in only 10 games. They played 21 games. That's pretty good. Gretzky was amazing. Players who played their last games this season was Mario Tremblay, was his last season. Bob Nystrom, Denny Herron. Nystrom, I don't know if he was still an Islander. Denny Herron retired as a Penguin. He played there 2 or 3 times. He was in Montreal for a couple of years. And Marion Stastny, one of the 3 Stastny brothers. I'm not sure if Marion was because Peter was the best. And I don't know if Anton I don't remember who was the second. Like 2 of them were really good. I think Marion was the one that he was okay, but he wasn't great. First games, these players played their first games this season. Shane Corson. And I did have season in review for this year. I forgot Shane Corson was a rookie that year, I think. There's a couple things I forgot to put in there. I came across. As a matter of fact, if you had watched it and you're watching this now, I had it that the Islanders and the Oilers were the big teams, but it's true that it was the Flyers and the Capitals that got knocked out that season that opened the road for Montreal and made it possible for the win. Okay, so first games this in 85-86 was Shane Corson, Brett Hull in Calgary, Adam Oates in St. Louis, and they would later go on to become big partners, line, whatever you want to call it. Wendell Clark, obviously, now he was the first draft pick overall and good enough to play. I don't know if he started the season in Toronto, but he definitely played. Cliff Ronning made an appearance in the playoffs for the St. Louis Blues. Bob Probert, tough guy, his first season, good hockey player as well. Kirk McLean, I think he was goalie for Vancouver Canucks. Scott Mellanby, Philadelphia, I believe, and also I believe he's in management here right now. If not right now, he was in the last couple of years. Peter Klima, Gary Suter, and Bill Ranford, goalie for Boston and Edmonton, I think, both of them won the cup with Edmonton, I do believe. So give me another second. I'm going to go to the brackets for that year. All right, so we're back. So now I circled the key series. At the time, I thought it still was the Islanders when I did this yesterday, this board. So just ignore that one. Okay, so Quebec and Hartford. Hartford beat Quebec 3-0. Now, first round was best of 5. It's been a while since we've seen best of 5, but that's what it was. The preliminary round, or the opening round, was best of 5 in those years. Montreal beat Boston 3-0. Montreal and Boston, not good for Boston in the playoffs. 9 times out of 10, I think. Philadelphia and the Rangers. Now, this is the key. Philadelphia was a strong team. The Rangers knocked them out in the first round, 3-2. That was important because Montreal, we didn't want them to face Philadelphia. They were strong. I don't remember all the players there that year. It's pre-Lindros, so it's not Eric Lindros. But they were powerful, and we didn't want them to meet them. Capitals beat the Islanders 3-0. Chicago lost to Toronto 3-0. St. Louis knocked out the North Stars 3-2. The Oilers beat the Canucks 3-0, and Calgary beat Winnipeg 3-0. So they all advanced. Now, key series here, and I circled the Hartford-Montreal one. That's because that was a tough series. We'll get into it on the next board. That was a tough series, totally unexpected, and it was on the edge for who's going to win. Right up to the last minute, went into overtime, Game 7. The Capitals were knocked out by the Rangers 4-2. So now the Rangers knocked out the 2 best teams in the East, and they would go on to meet Montreal. And this was a good series, mostly, but Game 3 especially, that's where Patrick Roy and Claude Lemieux went to work, and I'll get into that as well on one of the later boards. Okay, so Toronto lost to St. Louis 4-3, and the Oilers lost to Calgary 4-3. Calgary would go on into the finals, and that was a key there too because we wouldn't meet them till the finals, the Oilers, but we didn't want to meet the Oilers in the finals. Any team making the finals for the East did not want to line up against the Oilers. They were strong, powerful, scoring. Defense wasn't great, but they had Grant Fuhr in nets, and they were scoring a bunch of goals. So Montreal and the Rangers, they beat the Rangers 4-1. So you'd say, that's an easy series. It was mostly, but there was that one game especially where in Game 3 where Montreal was totally outshot big time. They kept pace right up the third period. Rangers were leading. Montreal tied it up near the end, and it went to overtime. And Patrick Roy, I think that's the best. 5 minutes. There was a 5-minute period there, maybe a little less. He was shot after shot, and he was running around, bouncing around, and he stopped everything, and it was amazing. That's where we fell in love with Patrick Roy in this series right here. Calgary beats St. Louis 4-3, so Montreal gets in. They got to wait a couple of days for Calgary. They get in. They beat them 4-1, and I don't really remember anything in that series necessarily standing out. That I think there was an overtime game. Yeah, there was. That's where Brian Skrudlin set the record for the fastest overtime goal. I think it still stands. It was 9 seconds. We barely sat down to watch the game, and it was over. I think I had a couple people over, and somebody was still in the kitchen and didn't even get out of the kitchen, and the game was over. Good result and everything, but yeah, that's how fast it was. So that's how it went. That's how it ended up. Caps get knocked out. I forget what I wrote there. I explained it here. So, yeah, that's how it ended up. That's how it goes. I've got 2 more boards, and we'll go through the series. And there's that Hartford series I want to talk about. All right, we're back. Okay, so Montreal faced Boston in the first round. There's not too many years where Montreal and Boston didn't play in the playoffs. I just remember almost every season at some round, Montreal and Boston met, unless one of them didn't make the playoffs. But Montreal and Boston were very consistent in making the playoffs. That's in my lifetime, very consistent. Matter of fact, Boston, I think, might hold the record for that, most consecutive years in the playoffs. So it was an easy series. I don't remember anything standing out to me that happened that I really want to talk about. And Montreal won 3 games in a row, best of 5 series, 3-1 in Boston in the first. No, Montreal in the first game, 3-2 in the second game, and 4-3 in Boston in the third game. I just don't remember anything standing out from that. Then Montreal took on the Hartford Whalers, and we just figured it's Hartford. They've won 1 series in their whole existence. That's it. We're going to put them out of their misery here. It was Patrick Roy against Mike Liut, and I say that because Mike Liut was pretty damn good in this series. The Hartford Whalers, their defense in some games, we just couldn't solve Liut, and they kept us at bay. It was a 7-game series. It was hard fought, and the last game went into over. Anyways, we'll talk about it. So first game is Hartford 4-1 in Montreal. So they beat Montreal. I don't know if it's because Montreal had to wait a couple of games. You can get rusty. And sometimes the first game, when you've been waiting for the other team, it could get rusty. But I think Hartford as well won in 3 games. So I don't remember why. But Stu Gavin had 2 goals. Sylvain Turgeon, the other what's his name? The other Turgeon, Pierre Turgeon's brother, and Josh Anderson scored for Hartford. And Chris Nyland, of all things, Chris Nyland gets the only goal for Montreal. Shots on goal, 22 for Hartford, 27 for Montreal. Second game is 3-1 for Montreal at home. They needed to win because you didn't want to go down 2-0 to Hartford. At that point, okay, they got the first one. That's going to be the only one. It's not how it works out. Ray Ferraro with the first goal. Stéphane Richer and Guy Carbonneau gets 2 goals in that game. Shots on goal, Hartford 25, Montreal 30. Third game, Montreal 4, Hartford 1. First game in Hartford. Shel Daline, Stéphane Richer, Claude Lemieux, Guy Carbonneau with the goals. Dave Tippett for Hartford. Shots on goal, Montreal 21, Hartford 21. Now this is where it starts to get difficult because you don't know what's going to happen here, and they're in Hartford. Hartford wins 2-1 in overtime to show that they're not out of this series. They're going to give it all they got, and they're going to give Montreal everything they can handle, and that is what happened. So the goal scorers were Mats Naslund for Montreal, and I put Gavin, and I didn't put any others. Hartford had 2 goals. Your guess is as good as mine because I don't remember, so I missed on that score. Sorry about that, guys. But it went to overtime, and it was an exciting game. And who would have thought against Hartford? Shots on goal, Montreal 19, Hartford 24. Fifth game, I guess? We're at 5th game. Back to Montreal. Montreal wins 5-3. Dineen with 2 goals for Hartford. Kevin Dineen and Josh Anderson with a goal. Claude Lemieux, Guy Carbonneau again with 2. Mats Naslund and Mike Lawler for Montreal. Montreal 30 shots to Hartford's 23. Now you figure, okay, they're going back to Hartford. It's 3-2. Montreal beat them pretty handily. It's going to be a cakewalk. They're going to win it in Hartford. Not what happens. It ends up 1-0 for Hartford. Kevin Dineen getting the only goal in the second period, so it wasn't like it was down to the wire in the third and then they scored like it was 0-0. It wasn't like that. Montreal just couldn't solve Liut. Shots on goal, 32 for Montreal, 17 for Hartford. And there you go. 1 goal on the 17 shots. Montreal, none on the 32. Mike Liut was awesome. Last game, Game 7 in Montreal. Goes to overtime. It's 2-1. Ends up 2-1. Dave Babbage, big mustache guy. Didn't he have a mustache? Gets Hartford's goal. Mike McPhee gets a shorthanded goal, I think, in the first period. And then it goes to overtime. It stays like that. And they're just one goalie better than the other. Mike Liut was awesome in this series. Patrick Roy will have his in the next series. He was good, but Mike Liut was a little better. Thank God Montreal won. So it goes to overtime, and the overtime hero, and pretty much the series, the playoff hero for Montreal, the hero, not the Conn Smythe winner, that was Patrick Roy. But the hero was Claude Lemieux. He had a few overtime goals, and he was exciting out of nowhere. His rookie year, and just out of nowhere. So he gets the overtime goal here. Shots on goal, 32 for Montreal, 25 for Hartford. Montreal advances to go on to the New York Rangers. Now, the New York Rangers took out the two top teams in the East, Philadelphia and Washington. New York is pumped and ready to go. But sometimes when you get a team like that that's not expected to do well and they take out the top two teams, they kind of hit a wall, and at some point it's going to stop, or their Cinderella story and they're going to go all the way. Well, for New York, it was the former, and they hit the wall when they hit Montreal. But there was that one game, so we'll get to it. I'm going to just take a break, get the new boards up, and we'll get to that. All right, so we got through the Boston series and the Hartford series, and next up is the New York Rangers. It's Patrick Roy against John Van Beesbroek. I believe he's also young there. Might have been his second season, I believe. So first game is 2-1 Montreal. It's in Montreal. And funny thing is, most of the guys on the Rangers team scoring, I don't remember them. Willie Huber gets the New York Rangers goal, and Montreal's goals are scored by Matt Naslund and Bob Gainey. Shots on goal, New York 27, Montreal 30. Second game, Montreal's showing them we mean business. 6-2 Montreal in Montreal. For Wilf Paymon with the 2 goals for the Rangers. Him I did know, Wilf Paymon. Montreal gets goals from Bobby Smith. Guy Carbonneau again with 2 goals. Lots of 2-goal games for Carbo. McPhee, Claude Lemieux, and Chris Chelios chip in. And yeah, Montreal wins 6-2. Now this is the big game. Third game comes around, and Montreal pulls it out. It's 4-3 in overtime, but New York shows them they mean business. They don't want to lose, and it's an exciting game all the way around. First period starts. Richer opens the scoring. Kelly Miller gets New York's goal, so they finish the first period tied, 1-1. Second period, New York gets the only goal. Mike Ridley again. Kelly Miller, Mike Ridley. Kelly Miller, maybe I heard the name. Mike Ridley. I don't really remember these guys. So it's 2-1 going into the third period. Matt Naslund ties it up in the third. Bob Brook, that's who it is. Bob Brook gets the go-ahead goal. I believe it's at, let me see if I remember, 12:54 of the third period. So they got 7 minutes. It's 7 minutes to go, and New York could take this game, and it becomes a different series. Montreal does not want this. Not at all. On the power play, Bobby Smith at 17, it's like 2.5 minutes left in the game. They tie it up, and it goes to overtime, and that's when Patrick Roy goes to work, and then Claude Lemieux. And by that, I mean there was at least a 2-3, like I said earlier. Patrick Roy was like a fly. That's what I remember. All over the place, and don't forget, Patrick Roy is the goalie that popularized the butterfly style. Basically, most goalies before him were stand-up goalies. It's a different style. When you beat a stand-up goalie, he looks bad, but when he makes a save, kind of looks good. It's hard to say, but stand-up goalie was the thing of the past pretty much after Patrick Roy, and this is the reason why he was spectacular at points in this playoff series, in the playoffs. And this was a particularly one spot. I had never seen goaltending like that. We fell in love with Patrick Roy right here, and I've been in love with him ever since. It sounds bad. So yeah, he was amazing in the overtime. And then what happens? I think this is exactly what happened. He made another big save. There might have been some pressure. Puck bounces out. Claude Lemieux gets it, races down to the other end, and beats Van Beesbroek for the overtime goal at 9:41 of the first overtime. And that was a key goal. That was a key goal, a key win because that cements the series. Even though Rangers go on to win the next game 2-0, doesn't matter. Rangers just say we got some fight left in us, and it's also hard. The hardest game to win is that fourth game. Even if it's you're up 3-0, which they were, that fourth game could be the hardest game to win. Prove that here in the 2-0 loss to the Rangers. In the last game, they win 3-1 in the fifth game, and it's funny because Thomas Sandstrom, who was one of the guys that he stopped a few shots from in the third game, he gets the first goal. Sandstrom is the player that Patrick Roy was winking at in the 93 finals against LA. That famous Patrick Roy wink, it's at Thomas Sandstrom, who was then with LA. Okay, so Sandstrom gets that goal. Lemieux, Smith on the power play, and Gainey, and that series is done. Now, I wrote down the Calgary series. I didn't put a lot because I don't remember it being an exciting series where it stood out for me, a bunch of stuff. So Montreal lost the first game 5-2 in Calgary. They beat Calgary 3-2 in overtime in the second game. They come back to Montreal. Montreal beats them 5-3, and then Calgary, 5-3. Then they go up 3-1 in the series with a 1-0 win. That was a tight game. I remember that was a tight game. And who gets the game winner? Claude Lemieux. He got so many important goals in these playoffs. It was amazing. And then it was a 4-3 game in Game 5. It was an exciting game. Montreal, I think it was kind of back and forth, and Patrick Roy made the difference here. And Montreal wins 4-3 to take the Stanley Cup on Calgary ice. Calgary would later go and get revenge on this in 1989 when they would beat Montreal in the finals. I believe might have been Game 7 on Montreal ice, so our home ice. First time, maybe, I think it might have been the first time ever that a team had beaten Montreal in Game 7 on home ice. So they got their revenge, but Montreal gets the first one. That's the cup. They get their 23rd Stanley Cup. And it was a great playoffs, unexpected. The emergence of Patrick Roy. It was just a great playoffs. Lots of memories. Those are the ones that stand out to me. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. While you're on the way down there to do that, you can subscribe, ring that notifications bell. That'll get you more videos like this from me at Talking Habs. And please leave any comments you may have about the video, about that season, anything you want in the comment section. I do read them all. So once again, everybody, thanks for watching. That was the road to the Cup for Montreal Canadiens in 1986. Peace out, y'all. See you next video.